it's a simple question, probably not a simple answer. Why are people still stuck in Afghanistan?
Well, I think to answer that question, you really got to kind of go back to the summer. You've got to go back to April when we had a lot more strategic choices to make. And in analyzing how this whole thing could have spun in a very poor way to get to this place we are now, it's the root cause that gets you these circumstances. And the root cause is we had a disastrous plan for rolling up and withdrawing from Afghanistan. And as a result, we now see so many left behind that don't want to be there at all.
General Holt, you are an expert in evacuation training and procedures and strategy. You bring an interesting perspective that a lot of people who are having this discussion don't have. So what would you do if you were still in charge?
Well, if I was right now working with the various forces that are really working around the clock, former veterans, humanitarian groups that are trying to effect more evacuations, the only thing that I would really press them upon is to really stay engaged with their elected representatives back home, to exert as much influence as they could to get U.S. government assistance and help behind these efforts. I'm not saying that the State Department's not lending assistance. I'm saying that it could be more robust. And I would say that political influence exerted in the region is lacking, in my opinion, and could be brought to bear in terms of getting the Taliban to be more friendly towards these evacuation attempts. We have options.
And a senior United Nations official is saying that millions of Afghans, including children, could ultimately die of starvation unless urgent action is taken to pull Afghanistan back from the brink of collapse. You talk about dealing with the Taliban and working out situations with them. How does that happen to prevent that situation in addition to getting Americans out of Afghanistan?
Yeah, so I don't want to mince words. The Taliban is an adversary. They're an outright enemy of the United States. So the way to approach that diplomatically is going to be through leverage that you have. It's curious to me that the Taliban at their Troika meeting with regional countries exhibited this need for immediate monetary assistance to get people fed and to avoid a catastrophe. And yet they're spending the resources they do have to recommission military equipment and get it going. So actions speak far louder than words. But the levers still exist for us to be able to hold the Taliban accountable for what we need to continue to get people out. We wish we could go back. I'm certain that we would love to have the options we had before us in July, but we have to work this where we sit right now.
In regards to actions, what is it that your sources on the ground, General, are saying about the way that the Taliban says that they're ruling and how they're actually ruling in Afghanistan?
Well, the people that I'm connected to now are mostly in hiding. And so that alone is telling that where the Taliban says, well, we're assisting people who are Americans to get out, or the people who had served with Americans to get out, they're actually looking to try to hunt them down and kill them. And there's what I get directly on my phone is reports of atrocities, door to door, rolling up people, throwing them in the backs of cars, never to be seen again. And so any of these statements that the Taliban are saying on the world stage at this regional meeting, that they are liberalizing towards women, they want to open up the government, that they want legitimacy for good reason, this is all just a veneer.
Something that I think is overlooked at this point, maybe not initially, but the fact that you say those in hiding, can you elaborate a little bit more on what kind of situation those people are in that they fear for their life if they even try to get out? What is that like for them?
So I won't give a name, but I certainly will just kind of highlight one case in particular that I've been working for the last 2 months. A young man who worked to help U.S. forces, but never quite at the level that gave him SIV status. Certainly he was an applicant, but the number never came across, so the bureaucracy is out of whack with him. His entire family has essentially scattered across the country, feeling like they have more chances to survive on a one-on-one basis. He is in contact with some of the rescue groups that we facilitate, and daily I see the cries of, I don't think I'm going to make it. They're going to come find me soon. They're looking for me. To the hope we got over the weekend, which is a wonderful story. We now have this individual in a really great hiding place, and we have a seat that we believe will be available within the next week for that one to leave. But he'll be leaving behind a sister who went on a land route, mother, siblings. And this is where we get to the word parsing that we see on Sunday news shows, which is, well, some people don't want to leave Afghanistan. So, well, why would that be? Because you have to pick between your blue passport and a family member who has you welded to the country. And yet what you're asking for is assistance to get more people out. And honestly, with the way that we've left this country, we shouldn't turn our backs on those ideas at all.
I think there's a lot of stories like that of people having to choose a very indescribable decision of who to leave behind in order to get out that we're not hearing all the time. So General Holt, thank you so much for sharing that with us, all the time we have for this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.